Okay, I see it over there.
We're on, John, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining today, Thursday. If you're on Zoom and you have a question, please write it and I'll answer it if I can. And then on Zoom, you can just actually unmute and ask the question. Today, we're going to look at Gabriel Stockton's colors. Gabriel's with us today. He's always with us. So we'll be able to ask him some questions directly. But we don't want to ask him questions that will mess with his demonstration tomorrow. If you want to, go ahead anyway. There we go. So there's Gabriel's. A couple of you asked to show your brushes and paintings. That's fantastic. I think what I'd like to do before we start with showing artwork and also looking at Gabriel's colors, I was asked a question by Scott, who's our sales rep. By the way, if you ever want a demonstration, Scott does demonstrations. He does them remotely. He can do them for your society, etc. So one of the questions was about using ground on watercolor paper. There was watercolor paper that was damaged, and someone asked, can you use watercolor ground over the top of that? And yes, you absolutely can. The only issue becomes the cost of doing that versus the cost of a watercolor piece of paper, but it would absolutely work. That kind of brought another question, because we're talking about sizing and kind of what is sizing. And I'm not a paper manufacturer, so I'm going to go kind of over it briefly, and then you'd have to ask, ask the paper manufacturer or try to learn about the paper that you're using. But sizing is used to assure that the watercolor doesn't go all the way through the paper. If it goes too deep into the paper, then you lose vibrancy, because the light hitting it has to go deep before it bounces back and either reflects or refracts. So the more it goes into the paper, you get less vibrancy. So the thing about watercolor paper is, this is my paper, is to have X amount of the paint on top and X amount go into the substrate right here. So it stays on top, but it also anchors into the paper. Okay, and that's kind of what sizing is used for. Sizing can be of two ways it can be used. Some paper is both internally and externally sized. What that means is when some manufacturers are making their paper within the emulsion, the pulp emulsion, they will put sizing and it will mix up. And so when they actually make the paper actually has some sizing in it. And then they might also, in most cases they would, put a sizing on top. So it would be both internally and externally sized. Some paper is only externally sized. If there is excess sizing on top of a paper, you are in some ways able to take that off by using water. Okay, so it gets deeper than that, but in general, that's kind of the thing about sizing in a nutshell. Sizing can be an animal derivative. It originally was animal-based. I think some still use an animal-based. Some have moved to some plant-based sizing, and some have moved to a synthetic sizing. And you'd have to look at the characteristics of the paper that you're interested in to find which one of those is being used as the sizing. Okay. So I thought it was a really good question. Not everybody might know that, so just sharing information. The other one was, we had talked quite a bit about paper being 140 pound or X number of grams. And I don't think everybody might understand what that means. So I thought I'd briefly go over that today. It'll take 5 minutes. It'll be, I think, interesting for most of you. So I'm going to put this camera down and I'm going to put it behind me. So what I see is what you see, or what you see is what I see. Okay. I think you'll be able to kind of read this with me. Is that right? Can you read that?
Yes,
Right now?
perfect, perfect.
Okay. So when paper is talked about, it's usually done in two ways. It's either talked about in what's called a basis weight, which is expressed in pounds, 140 pounds, or it's expressed in grams per square meter, 300 grams, 500 grams, 800 grams. And people might say, well, 145 pounds, what does that mean? The thing doesn't really weigh 145 pounds. Okay, so in the US, the common measurement that we use is the pounds. So weight that's measured in pounds doesn't really mean that's the actual weight of what you're holding. It's based upon the 500 sheet ream of that paper in its original size. So it might be 22 by 30, it might be 22.5 by 28.5. It's whatever that manufacturer makes that original size in. 500 sheets of that is a weight in pounds, and that's why it's called X number of pounds. So different papers can have different basic sizes. So I thought we'd just kind of see an example of that. Here we have an example of just cover stock. And this cover stock is 20 inches by 25 inches. So it's cover stock paper. And it's 65 pounds, which means 500 sheets in this original size from the manufacturer weighs 65 pounds. It's 65-pound cover stock. This right here is vellum. This vellum is 22.5, 2.5 inches wider, 28.5, 2.5 inches. So both, it's bigger. It's bigger, and 500 sheets of the vellum weighs 67 pounds. The interesting thing here is the cover stock, a sheet of cover stock, holding it in your hands, 8.5 by 11, and a sheet of vellum, 8.5 by 11, the cover stock weighs more than the vellum. So you can't always go by this right here, because this is how big the 500 sheet in its original size weighs. Okay, that's kind of the thing that makes this a little bit strange when you're just talking about the pounds. So let's go on. The one that's probably the more accurate is when you're talking about the grams per square meter, because what that means is no matter what the paper, you take 1 meter and you're just taking one square per square meter, and that becomes the weight. So that makes that can equalize any paper you're looking at, right? So you're taking a sheet and you're doing 1 square meter of any paper you're looking at, and then you're weighing that sheet, and that becomes the grams per square meter. It just makes it much easier. So if we look at that, then that same vellum, that's 67 pounds, and per basis weight weighs more than the cover stock. You can see when it's 147 to 176, it actually weighs less than the cover stock. So when you're looking at a weight of a paper, it's much easier to look at the grams per square meter in a way to know what one paper weighs versus another way. Because you're not always going to know what the size the manufacturer is making that basic weight in. But this is always the same because it's 1 square meter and then the weight of that sheet in 1 square meter. Okay. So I thought it was just kind of neat because not everybody, knows that, and we always hear it's 140-pound cold press, etc., and X grams. Grams is actually a pretty neat way to look at it because we can all understand if you take a square meter of a piece of paper and weigh it, now we can check that one against another one against another one, and we know exactly what the weights are, which has more weight. Okay.
Thank you, John. That's fantastic.
That was thoroughly explained. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Okay, now we can do the fun stuff. Now we're going to play with color. So Gabriel's with us today. And we're gonna look at Gabriel's colors. So this is Gabriel's sheet right here. He has some really cool colors. And because he's actually with us today, as he always is, and with us tomorrow, we can ask him questions as we're going along. So Linda asked if she could show a brush, and if any of you have artwork that you'd like to show, please you do so now. So Linda, if you wanted to show your brush now, that'd be fine. I'm gonna go ahead and put these paints inside of a palette. So now would be a perfect time.
Linda. Okay, let me let's add her to spotlight. Are you ready to switch on the your camera, Linda?
How do I do that? I'm on an iPad.
iPad. Okay, from one of the, if it's an iPad, just at the bottom where you see those buttons,
Yes.
you can tap on the video icon. Once you tap on it, there's an arrow up. You can actually just tap on the video and it should, from off, it should immediately release the camera.
Okay, I'm not working it.
Yeah, it still says off. Try it again, please.
Okay, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to tap.
It should say video, and next to it to the left is your microphone. The mic button.
Okay,
Okay, let me see. All right, there.
okay.
Hang on. I think you also want to share a little bit more about this piece.
Okay, this is a painting I did. Basically, 99% of the painting was done with a 1/2 inch wide brush that I cut out like Anderson did. So for me, it was more of an impressionistic style, and I love it. You can see details.
Yes, this looks very beautiful from a distance. If you take it back, we can see the whole, yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. How beautiful.
Thank you. It was an eye opener for me, and I love this brush. Cheap, 1/2 inch wide.
Excellent.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you.
We
Thanks
call
for
them
sharing.
coat brushes.
So Linda, every year we go to Frankfurt, Anders is our guest artist, and he probably does 30 or 40 pieces of artwork just in each day that we're there.
Uh-huh.
I'm always amazed. He's such a nice guy that people will come behind him and see. They won't go in front of him. They'll go behind him and see what artwork he's doing. He'll grab his palette and he'll flip it around. So now he has all of them in front of him, and he's just he's so engages people.
Thank you.
Thank
I've
you.
got
So,
one. All right.
so here we have, this is Sleeping Beauty. And this is Lavender. So Gabriel, there it is. Okay. So Gabriel, you want to talk about the colors as I do it? Because they're your colors. Or would you want to do that tomorrow?
Oh yeah, I could talk about these colors. The Sleeping Beauty turquoise. I love using that to mix with other colors such as yellow and reds for like trees, or either like the water. Lavender. Oh my goodness, you can use lavender. I think it was even said just recently you could use by Yan. You could use lavender when you don't know what to do in a painting. But it's such a fun color to work with that I love working in midtones and then really having that nice white and dark over in my focal area, that the lavender is just like that extra little seasoning that's on your plate.
A lovely description.
Do you ever face any challenges since it is a mixed color with white? Do you ever have any challenges with muddiness since it is not?
What was the last part?
Since it is not a single pigment?
You know, so I've started using opaque colors also that is not on my Dotcard is gray titanium. That was the first to come on board before buff titanium. And then when I had like buff titanium and gray and lavender, I started to have like some more opaque areas in my painting. So I'm really, especially becoming an ambassador of Daniel Smith's, I really feel I get the opportunity to really push what the pigments can do. So just being mindful of what's a transparent tube and what is a opaque tube is, yeah, I am dumping out my water, you know, because you're rinsing out your brush after using the lavender, and you don't want to contaminate your next beautiful color, which could be queen gold. And so, yeah, just being mindful of your water.
Gabriel,
Yeah, Ian.
apart from the Dotcard that you're showing us, are there any colours that you've ever thought, do you know what, I'm going to have a go at this, even though I've never really had any personal experience with it? And if so, how did you feel after it? Did you think, yeah, I've really hit on a good colour here?
Are you asking me, is there other colors that I use other than on my Dotcard?
Kind of, but are there any specific ones that you've thought, wow, that's worked really well, even though I've not really used it before?
Yeah, you know, I think a really good one is transparent pyro orange. Another color too is, you know, I like to use cobalt teal blue. So maybe even in that same little spot on my palette, it might sometimes be, I'm showing my palette right now. Sometimes this might be cobalt teal blue or sleeping beauty. It's kind of like how I feel emotionally at that moment, probably for the painting. I'm a student for life. I'm always gonna stay in a place of learning. So I'm gonna always be open to trying other colors and see how they work and play. Because while you're out there painting, if there is one tube that I could use, instead of having to mix 3 colors to get something, I'm gonna do it. And I think that for a good example is like moon glow. You know, I'm gonna use moon glow instead of trying to mix the 3 out plein air painting.
So just another question. What would you call yourself? A person who likes to do mostly complementary colours, or are you a person who likes to do contrasting colours?
That's such a good question. You know, I love atmosphere. I would say I'm a student of light. And so I kind of I just sent a painting off to New York for the Tonalist of Today show at the Salmagundi Club, in which I'm a jury member. And so that particular painting, I'm actually going to be painting something similar tomorrow. So I don't talk a lot about colors. I talk more about tonal quality and atmospheric. So when I'm outside, I enjoy being outside, and I love the way what is set before me.
All right.
So these colors right here are going to be the Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty. This is the lavender. This is yellow ochre. This one right here is Tiger's Eye. This one right here is the raw sienna. And this is Rose of Ultramarine. Hello, George.
So for instance, I was mixing in some permanent aluminum crimson quite a bit in ultramarine and burnt sienna to like make my dark. I wasn't at one time using black. So then I came across the rose of ultramarine, and that made it onto my Dotcard because I wanted to change it up from using just permanent aluminum crimson at times. So I guess sometimes I mix some colors because I'm very sensitive to my environment, and I enjoy playing with paint and seeing how it mixes and applies to the paper. But I definitely try to mix it a little bit. I always tell my students, if you're putting it down and it looks exactly what you want at that point when it's wet, it's wrong, because it's going to dry 15 to 20% lighter. And so mixing has been so much fun. It's definitely different when you're in your studio versus plein air painting.
So Giovanni and Johnny have the colors as well. Are there any colors that you would like to see mixed? Anybody? Because Giovanni and or Johnny can do that.
I've kind of already done it already, if you want a spotlight, but I'm sure people would like to see it fresh. But here are all the possibilities of my Dotcard, minus the olive green. So you get to see all these beautiful colors mixed together. And it's so nice to see what would lunar black look with whatever. Yeah. And that's a wonderful question, is like, how does lavender mix with all these other colors on my Dotcard?
Cool. Excellent.
Something I'd like to see is mixing whatever is in Gabriel's lightest colour on his Dotcard against his darkest colour to see what that would do.
That would probably be like the cerulean blue. You know, here in San Diego, we have sometimes of the year, the sky isn't really like a deep blue. And that's why I threw the cerulean blue.
Come to England, it very rarely is blue.
So here's that cerulean blue mixed with lunar black right here. But yes, I would love to see my Daniel Smith brothers mix it away, because there's so many great possibilities. And I love granulation. I love seeing just what watercolor does on paper. So I rarely use smooth paper. I do like soft press paper, the thicker one, because it has gorgeous fibers I can do some beautiful saturated paintings where it's almost like just water, very little pigment, but you can see how it absorbs. This year for 2022, I had a wonderful conversation with Lauren McCracken, and we talked about maybe possibly me painting more on bright light paper. And so these are just wonderful things. I had never really had like one particular instructor. I feel like those artists have to take years and years, decades to unlearn what they've learned from just one person. I feel like just God has given me the right mentor in the right season of the year. Just like how we have fall, winter, summer, spring. I feel like there's been the right person to come along and teach me what I need to learn at that time.
So this is the olive green that Gabriel was talking about. Olive green. And then this is, probably you can guess, is the lunar black that has that awesome granulation.
It's kind of neat. If you mix my yellow that I have, the Hans yellow light, with the lunar black, you almost get a really cool olive green, but not the olive green that you get in the tube.
Yeah, it should move away. You can try it real quick. So the thing about the lunar black is,
I love the blue and the lunar black cerulean blue that Johnny has mixed. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful relation.
Very nice, Johnny.
So they're the two colours, your lightest and your darkest colour that you've got. It's very nice, that.
Beautiful, yeah.
Mm.
Yes.
I can see
A
where
really
that would make
nice,
some really nice atmospheres.
a really nice dark too is ultramarine with tiger's eye. That's another gorgeous dark color.
Can you say again what the lunar black was mixed with?
Cerulean blue.
Thank you.
And I like hematite. Hematite, burnt scarlet hematite with ultramarine blue. That's also gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
I started using tiger's eye not just because it's my birthstone, but it makes beautiful textures. And down here we have jetties, we have other beautiful rock formations down by the beach. We have the beautiful sand, and you know, you can do like buff titanium with some you know, spritzing and then splattering some lunar black. Or you could do tiger's eye or burnt tiger's eye. These make beautiful, just kind of lovely granulated images that could somewhat represent the atmosphere of some earthy sand or rock formation.
On the subject of the subject itself, what is your favorite plein air subject?
Oh, that's like trying to ask me who's my favorite child. Oh, that's so hard. You know, like right now people would probably say aviation, but I like to paint things that people want to then come visit and come take a look at. Like, I want to paint a painting that makes you look through and into the painting. You want to step into the painting.
I know the answer to that, Gabriel. I know that you like the plein air best of Girona.
Oh, that's right. I love my Girona painting.
Yes.
I do. I'm looking forward to Italy and Girona. Anywhere I can go visit my Daniel Smith family.
You will. We will all meet hopefully soon.
So this right here is the Hematite Burnt Scarlet that Gabriel's talking about. So you can see the granulation in it.
Yes.
It's right here. Donna, this is the Permanent Alizarin Crimson. Permanent Alizarin Crimson. And this is the Ultramarine Blue.
So I had a wonderful time picking out my Dotcard, and this is kind of what it looked like before I sent it in. I had all these wonderful colors picked out, and yes, I had a burnt sienna, but the burnt hematite just had just a little more girth or a little more yumminess to it that you know, everybody uses, not everybody, but here a lot of people use burnt sienna, raw sienna, they use yellow ochre, raw umber, you know, these traditional colors. And I really wanted more of those permatech colors in my Dotcard. And that's, you'll see quite a few permatechs in my palette because they have the wonderful jewelry. Like, look, another thing that's not on my Dotcard is one of my favorite colors is jadeite. I'm constantly telling people how it looks like jewelry in my painting. It's a beautiful
So Gabriel,
color.
Valerie has a question. She says she struggled to find the best use for tiger's eye. What are your preferred mixes with that?
Ooh, tiger's eye. It's just, and that's like what I was saying. It kind of resonates just with my character of who I am. Maybe you like country music and I enjoy listening to classical. That's what makes us beautiful in this world. But if you play around and I'm showing the strip of tiger's eye, I'm actually fallen more in love with burnt colors, but the tiger's eye first, it has kind of like a base art for me.
Can you spell that, Ethel?
So within this area, I feel if I just want to just kind of just dilate, just turn, you know, when you're like, back in the old days, when you were trying to like turn the dial to get your favorite radio station, if you're that old with me, or maybe you're trying to Bluetooth your phone on your car, you're kind of just tweaking just a little to the right or to the left, whether if it's a warmer or cooler color for atmosphere. And I just feel like that tiger's eye for earthy things, organic things, creates that for me. I hope I answered that question.
You also mentioned jadeite earlier, and I agree with your statement there. I love how the pigment separates out and pulls apart to so many different hues within the same color. Well, going all the way from green to that dark black, and how in the same way that your other Primatechs are separating out and granulating, I like the freedom that the jadeite has.
Yeah, so I took jadeite off the list because first of all, my amazing good friend has it on his, and he uses it in every painting, and that's Thomas Schaller. And I want to be not a competition, but a good buddy. And so I said, all right, well, what color can I use? So I went towards green apatite. Green apatite, then again, it kind of put the needle back to center for me. It gives me the granulation I need. And if I need it a little bit cooler, I'll add ultramarine blue. If I need it a little bit warmer, then I'll add alizarin crimson to it. When I'm doing my tree.
Gabriel, your front camera is not on. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, we're missing your front facing cam. The other camera is not logged in. Yeah.
I'm only using one camera today. Today I'm at my one of my galleries where I'm having a show. This is the last weekend, so I'm sitting in the gallery. Tomorrow I'll have 2 cameras. So can you see the tube now?
I have a comment here. I will read you a comment from Christine Clark. Gabriel, you're making me fascinated with experimenting with the paints that actually learning to make a painting. That's a nice comment.
Oh yes, you have to play with the paints. I brought the sketchbook today. I have this wonderful sketchbook, and in here, mostly this one's gonna have sticks. But in this wonderful sketchbook, I spent maybe 2 months. I did these experiments every morning. I would just get up a half an hour earlier and I would experiment with the sticks and with the tubes, just seeing what color does on paper.
And we have another question by Anna Hanneberg. Gabriel, maybe you can mention tomorrow Sleeping Beauty, turquoise, and Kingman Green turquoise as they compare to cobalt teal blue. I want
Yes, remind me of the question.
change up to cobalt teal blue, and I want more granulation, flavor to that color. Want to switch that up?
You want me to answer the question today or tomorrow?
Tomorrow's good.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
How about, Sariba says, can you mix Tiger Eye? Can you mix Tiger Eye with something live so she can see it? Could do it tomorrow, but today'd be cool if you have time to do it today.
It is in tomorrow's demo.
Then tomorrow's good. So Reba, it'll be tomorrow.
I have a mix of serpentine with ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson.
Gorgeous.
So this is the green apatite,
Mhm.
and that's the cerulean blue.
Gabriel,
Yes.
with regards to balance in your palette or your dot card, color is relative, but what do you do with regards warm and cool colors? Do you have a tendency towards cool, or do you have a tendency towards warm?
You know, no, I really feel like in order to create a wonderful painting, you have to have both. I grew up doing a martial arts that was called Goju, the Japanese martial arts, meaning hard and soft. And I feel like you have to have cold to, in order to show the warmth. So one painting may be warm and high key, or another painting might be nice and cool. I think you could do this while either if it's a nocturne or if it is a wonderful day in the afternoon.
So is your palette biased in any way, or is it, do you like to try and get a good balance with both?
Yeah, I definitely feel like a painting should either have more cool or more warm. I don't have a painting that has 50-50 warm and cool. So like with atmospheric painting, you're going to have a background that's cool and it's going to be moving warmer towards you, or vice versa. But I feel like even sometimes just for fun, a painting could be all nice and cool. And then there could be the star of the show that's hot and fiery wearing a beautiful red jacket.
Do you ever do monochromatic?
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much. Gabriel, there's a question for your sketchbook. what is it made of, or what is this sketchbook?
Oh, that sketchbook. Oh my goodness. We had this question a while back. I'll look and see here if it has the actual name of the paper. Starts with an S. There it is. Can you see that on camera?
Bison design.
So is it, it's, the name is just not coming to me right now.
Is it Chinese, Gabriel?
It's like, no, we did this in a past episode. We had, I thought it was like a German name, like,
Stillman and Burns?
No, like Shizen or something.
That's Japanese.
Uh,
Shizen is
have you-
Japanese. I have some black
There you
paper.
go. There you go. That's it.
I like
couldn't
the
get my
structure.
tongue-
It's really
my tongue
nice.
around it. Yeah, you know, and I think for what I'm doing and playing with granulation, having those high and lows in the paper, you're able to really push what paper. I mean, look
Gabriel,
at
sorry
that.
to interrupt you. Can you tell me these colors that you mixed in the more violet? There are only two colors. One is violet. I love the other one, the smaller dot. Not this one, the other corner. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. So
Ultra-
that's it. It says ultraviolet, ultramarine blue, and burnt sienna.
Wow.
I like that.
I agree.
And the blue, it came from the ultraviolet, or did you
Yeah.
put some blue? It looks like ultramarine blue or French ultramarine.
So yeah, in this mixture, you have ultramarine blue and ultramarine violet and burnt sienna.
Ah, three, okay.
So I was playing with trying to figure out another black. So I feel like when I mix my blacks but not completely mix them and add them into my paintings, it still looks lively. And so it's fun. It's sometimes, is this black a gold black, or is this black a warm black? It just depends. And so again, these are practices in my early morning. I would get up a half an hour early every morning and play around with these mixes.
What is the warm pink color?
A warm pink color.
And that on that page, on that previous page.
Uh-oh, I was going too quick. On the one we were just talking about?
Yeah, Abby wants to know what is that pink warm color. We've lost it now.
I don't have them numbered, I'm sorry.
Well, never mind.
Was it meant to be?
So these are the last four colors. This is Pyro Red. This is Quinacridone Deep Gold. Moon Glow. And this right here is the only iridescent. That's iridescent Aztec Gold.
That is the one that Giovanni was mixing with the black, isn't it?
Beautiful,
No.
quite beautiful.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Giovanni, what are those two? So just the dry.
Yeah, it's dry and then wet. Iridescent Aztec gold on white paper and black paper.
Oh, yes.
And the iridescent Aztec with lunar black sticks mixing.
Very
Mm.
nice.
Lunar black is always the best option. So nice.
It's
Giovanni.
yeah, very interesting. It's very nice.
Anyway, I've
Back
got
to
sorry.
back to your monochromatic question, Ian. So there's a process I teach with my students is we do a Nutan, that is Japanese for black and white. So we'll do a Nutan painting, and then we'll do a monochromatic painting, and then we'll go and dive in to just a value study, and then a painting with all colors, just so that we can learn about design and learn about tone and learn about values. So monochromatic paintings, I love them. They're gorgeous.
I've got a standard question that I'm going to ask everybody who comes on now. And that is, if you were cast away on a desert island, what 3 colors would you take with you?
I think that John beat you to that. He already asked that question.
Did they?
You did. Mhm.
All right.
But he said 4 colors.
4? That's not fair. You can only have 3.
Oh, okay. And which ones would you choose?
Me?
Yeah,
A red, a blue, and a yellow.
primaries.
Why not?
But which ones, cold or warm?
I'm not experienced. Oh, yeah, I've learned the lesson with that. If you have like a cool, sorry, I've got this. I better get this wrong. A cool yellow and a warm blue, for example, it makes really horrible green.
Mhm.
So you've got to be careful what you do. I'd say I'd have 6 and cheat.
Mhm.
One
I think
of each.
Raphael is a great one for triads.
Johnny, which mixes are you doing?
Well, this is the Sleeping Beauty, and because I don't normally use the Moon Glow, I use the Lunar Violet.
Lunar Violet.
Excellent mix.
Yes,
Oh, gorgeous.
Beautiful, Johnny.
Thank you.
very nice.
I like.
Just between all of you here, when you put paint down like that as blobs that naturally flow into one another, what kind of thing do you call that?
Blossoms.
Blossoms.
Yeah.
As in, like, for example, if I were just putting a flat wash down,
Yeah.
that would be a flat wash. That's a type of putting paint onto paper in a completely organic kind of a way, isn't it? But nobody's ever given me a name for it.
I think one of the vocabulary words you're searching for is called charging, where it's
Charging.
not exactly what they're doing here, but it's where you lay down your wash and then you drip the extra pigment into
Right.
your wash. So it's not exactly what Johnny and Gio are working on, where they're using thick pigment and they're putting it into wet and then they're moving the paper.
Mm.
But charging is another one of the vocabulary words that we could be working with to describe.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's beautiful, Johnny. Can you put that to the center screen? Yeah, that's. And Gio, can you do yours too?
Aztec gold and lavender. Wow.
This is also beautiful, Giovanni.
Wow.
See, for me, Giovanni's version is what I would call a variegated wash, where two colors like
Very.
naturally blend into one another. I might be wrong. I might be getting my terms wrong.
Very neat. Very nice.
Very nice, anyway.
Yeah, very nice. Awesome. So are there any Let's see, Abby says 3 colors, yellow ochre, yellow oxide, lunar blue, and a granulating.
I suppose these are the 3 colors you would take to a desert island.
Yes. Yeah, I think Mark had his, I think Anna had hers. I think there was probably 10 or 15 people that picked the 3 colors.
What are your 3 colours, John?
Oh, I'd be stuck on just finding ones that I think that are
You just
probably.
smuggle them all in.
That'd be interesting. I would probably do the lunar blue just because just in itself, it's just very peaceful. If I was just looking at a color, I find, peace in it. I like the rose of ultramarine and probably a quinacridone gold.
Oh,
Or
don't tell me you wouldn't use the ultramarine blue.
What about ultramarine?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I thought he would have said ultramarine, ultramarine, and ultramarine.
And we were all wrong.
You threw us for a loop on that one.
I would definitely choose lunar black, cobalt teal blue, and queen deep gold.
That's pretty interesting. I love that cobalt teal blue is a beautiful color.
Very beautiful. One of my favorite colors.
Yes.
Also, I love rose of ultramarine that you mentioned, John. It's a very amazing color.
I think Giovanni, are you using rose of ultramarine right there with the Aztec?
Yeah.
It seems like that, yeah.
Stunning.
No, is it different color, not rose of ultramarine? Giovanni, is it rose of ultramarine?
Yeah, it's rose of ultramarine and Aztec gold.
Because I don't see blue around. Usually it gets a little bit bluish.
A little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, this is really nice.
You guys are great at doing wash. They look really neat, their mixes. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. So Gabriel, you're ready for tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
I'm excited.
Gabriel, we're gonna rock and roll tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we are. We're gonna rock and roll.
Nice.
For sure.
I think people are going to ask you what music you listen to when you're painting, because that's I think normally you ask that question.
I do. And actually for me, it's what I'm listening to on the way to a paint out that gets me going. Mm-hmm. And it could vary, that's what I loved hearing about when Angela Barbie and Michael, they were all together, and
in France,
Michael was saying, yeah. When he was saying it's what he's feeling in the moment, it being very emotional and. So there could be times I could listen to something really like in your face, loud and heavy, or maybe I'm listening to Chopin. So it can vary with times. What kind of music I listen to.
Do you have any insights into touching the emotional chords and being able to access those to put that onto art and images? I find oftentimes that I study so hard on the technical side that then I've developed that muscle part of the brain that I need to be working harder on touching the emotive. Do you have insight into, other than music, other tools? And I'd love to hear the other artists' input on that too.
That is a great question. And what I'm hearing is, yes, there are times where I'm planning a painting. Sometimes I even go to a place before the paint out and think about it. And because I'm constantly geeking out on my technique and how I'm going to lay this and do that. Then there's a moment where I just surrender it all and just kind of bring in the current present moment. But yes, I had someone recently go, this weather is completely different than the reference photo. And how is it that you're still painting this beautiful painting live when the weather is just like poop? And I go, well, I came with a game plan. I set myself up to win. But right now I'm going to be present with all the beauty that's surrounded me, the smells, the feels. And I also ask for me, I have a higher power. I believe in a God, and he is greater than me. And I ask for that beautiful islands, because I look around with a heart of gratitude and seeing God's beautiful creations before me, whether if God like brought in this person to build this beautiful boat that I'm about to paint, or the way the gorgeous wind is hitting this beautiful palm tree. And so am I painting it exactly to size and scale? No, I'm allowing the beautiful pigments to paint it itself. And we'll see that tomorrow when I paint this jetty and I allow the pigment to paint all the beautiful rocks. So yeah, I could geek out and make sure, oh, I need that boulder and I need this boulder, and I need this composition. But then there's a moment of just release and let everything come in.
That is so beautiful what you're explaining, Gabriel. I love that.
Nice.
And I hope people see that in a painting, because when you buy one of my paintings and you hang it into your home, it changes the atmosphere in the home. That is the feedback I'm hearing from people. I constantly have people saying, do you make prints? Do you make prints? And I said, why would I make prints when you can own a beautiful piece of art that has the gorgeous pigment that is gone in and looked into this beautiful paper and has evolved with the beautiful evaporation and science that comes along in creating this piece in the spirit of that moment? Why would you want a printed, paper that has really a surface of inks on a piece of paper? It sounds surfacey to me. Like, I want something that is meaningful and gorgeous. And I think when people go to someone's house that owns a painting of mine, well, I already have experienced it. There's a lady here, and maybe all of you, I pray and hope you all receive a Julie in your life. For me, it's Julie. Julie has people come over and have wine parties, and I get a text message that says, I was just at Julie's house and I want one of your beautiful paintings. And now it's like no different than if someone went over to Julie's house and saw a beautiful deck or a swimming pool built in the backyard. And slowly but surely, I'm taking over the neighborhood with paintings in their house.
So tomorrow we'll have Gabriel. These are going to be the colors that we're going to look at. He's going to use these and or any ones he wants to use. So he's going to have lots of options. Thank you all for showing your brushes and showing your artwork. Gabriel, thank you. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Giovanni. Giovanni, can you show your mix one more time? The one you were just doing? If anybody, any others of you would like to show your mixes, we can do that as well. So,
All global, the last
yeah.
show ultramarine blue and Aztec,
I love that.
green apatite and Aztec gold, and lunar black watercolor thick queen deep gold.
That's
And
cool.
Aztec gold, the rose of ultramarine with iridescent Aztec gold and lavender.
Awesome. Well,
Wow.
thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Carolyn, just came on. Carolyn just came on, Raphael as well. Look forward to seeing you all. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Gabriel, you asked a bunch of questions. I think that's going to probably just whet everybody's appetite to ask you more questions tomorrow. So that'll be fabulous. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking part. See you all tomorrow.
See you
Bye-bye,
tomorrow.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Take
everybody.
care.
Bye-bye.
This is gonna be
you.
good.
Thanks.
It'll be good.